Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to episode 3. Today we are featuring the casting process. It's a two-part interview, the first being with New York casting director Bob Cline and his assistant Lucy Laveley. I've known Bob for about 20 years as he cast me in my first bus and truck tour back in 2001. Mark and I go to New York at least 6 or more times a year to cast our individual shows, and each individual show usually takes 4 days to cast. We also do local auditions, so it's a total of about a week of auditions for one specific show. So Lucy, Bob, and Mark and I spend a lot of time throughout the year putting the shows together. I wanted to feature them because they are behind the scenes and they're lovely human beings and they are such a huge part of this portion of the process that I wanted to introduce them to you all today and let you get to know them a little bit better. The second half of today is about the headshot. I'm talking to Shifted Focus Headshots, which is a locally run photography business by actors Melissa Blatherwick and Kevin Faraci. Kevin and Mel started this, I think, as a hobby, and it's quickly turned into one of the most sought-after headshot and photography businesses in Lancaster, as well as New York. The headshot is the actor's business card. It is an image that represents them to the casting director. Kevin and Mel have a wonderful aesthetic. I actually have my headshots with them, and they have a wonderful business, and they are awesome human beings, and I wanted to involve them in this so that they could help us understand a little bit more about what it takes to help the actor choose the best photo that represents them to the casting director. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this afternoon's interviews. Hello, Bob and
Hey,
Lucy. Welcome to Joey's Java Talk.
it's great to see your beautiful face.
Thank you for
Good to be
joining us
here.
this afternoon. Woohoo! I'm toasting you with my coffee now.
Oh,
And
sure.
I'm not drinking
I have a
coffee.
nice fresh glass of H2O.
Yay! This is tea. I don't
Sure.
usually drink coffee, but I thought Java Talk was a good name for it.
It is.
You guys are part of our third episode where we're focusing on the casting process. And I chose this part because I don't think that you guys are such a huge part of what happens when, before the show is shown to our audience. So, and a lot of people don't get to know how important you actually are. So I wanted to feature the two of you because you're a big part of my job. And I just wanted to have you on the episode today so we could talk to you and get to know you a little bit more. So
You're very sweet.
thank you for being here. And so first off, I'm going to ask you both if you can give a little background on yourselves and how you found your way to sitting behind the table. Bob, let's start with you.
Sure. I actually went to theater school. I got a BFA in musical theater, but I got minors in directing and choreography and then I had to do and sociology and psychology. I got all these minors because I was paying for my own education, and I had to do an internship in something, so I chose to do it and we had to go to New York, LA, or London, and I chose to go into New York, and I chose to do it in a casting office because I felt like the casting office was sort of in the middle of the business. Like I got to meet all the directors and writers and producers and those people who come into the office to hold auditions, and then I also got to meet all the agents and actors that came through the office, and I thought all of that's important for me as I was going to be starting a career as a performer. Well, I got hired my fourth day when I was in a casting office because I had a photographic memory. Like I was the kid who studied on his way to class. Like I didn't know that studying was really something you really had to do. It was just I didn't know I was lucky. I didn't even know that everyone wasn't like that. Um, so I got hired and I actually stayed as long as I could in my college. I guess I'd signed some paper that said I had to come back and finish my degree. So I did. And then I went off to work as an actor, and casting was sort of my catering job, and I worked at a bunch of different casting agencies over the when I'd get home, instead of nannying or catering or going to a restaurant job, I'd really call the casting office to say, "Hey, I'm in town. Do you need help?" And I would get to go do pilot season at this place or another place. And then eventually enough artistic directors, I started to know them, and directors, and they started to hire me alone to cast things. I did a lot of national tours at the top of my career. that you did. I must have done over 75 national tours back in the day. And I've
That's
cast
been my first one. Funny Girl, 2001. Bus and truck, baby. Yeah.
Wasn't that during 9/11 too?
I was part of the second
Like, wasn't that around?
half of it. Yeah, they were in rehearsal, I think, during 9/11. So,
that was
anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Time that was. No, I know, with all that's going on in our country, that's such a landmark time in our country, also.
Yeah.
But and then I got lucky enough to do this. I got in. I get to find people I love and my friends' jobs. It's fun.
Right. Lucy, how did you end up where you're at right now with Bob?
So I'm a New York City-based actor and artist. I moved to New York and my first agent said I was going to go be a reader for a casting director because there was nothing to do in July until auditions began, and I had no idea what that meant. And by a series of unfortunate events and my own first audition for Bob Cline for Venus and Fur at Fulton, perhaps. I did wear a corset to an audition, ladies, something you may or may not need to do. We'll speak about that further. But what I enjoy about Bob is he was so welcoming and loving and kind in the room. And like I said, I like to say, position yourself where lightning can strike. And somehow I think Bob picked up on my deep desire to be a team member. And I greatly enjoy the team aspect and the sport of our industry. And Bob really embraces the art as well as the entertainment, which is super fun. So there's room for my enthusiasm. And Bob is my greatest and longest mentor in Manhattan to date. Okay. And certainly the most influential because he supports my work on stage and embraces what I absorbed from him off stage. And it's been great. The greatest benefit I've had as an actor to be on both sides of the table and release the stakes and let it be about the joy, which is the weird part about it.
And I feel lucky because it's really hard to train someone to do what we do. I mean, I've been casting since 1993. So there's plenty of names in my head, you know what I mean? But it goes far beyond that because it goes with how you treat people, you know? I get lucky that I love all of my bosses, all of my clients, and especially Mark Robin and the love he puts out there. And it's sort of our job to weed out the bad eggs, you know, and make sure that since I've had the pleasure too of also going to the Fulton and visiting as often as I'd like to go see the shows, and I've had the pleasure of directing there, I care about everyone there. Right. So I don't want to send some jerk or some a poisonous person into the mix. And Lucy's good at screening that too. And you know, our meter goes off and says, not the one, the one, you know.
Lucy, this is something I was going to ask a little bit later, but you mentioned it already. You are a reader for us when, you know, we have auditions, and I think you're one of the best ones, and actors they write you letters here. I've received letters at the Fulton about you, having you in the room as a reader. Can you explain a little bit about what that means to our audience?
That's always fun for me. Like, I need more mail, and then it's all for the
I think what is essential about being a reader, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, it is a very strange concept. An actor will come into the room, and we can't pair up all actors always. So an actor will pull a piece from the play, the casting director will pull a piece, and then there'll be a piece of the play, and we call it a side. And then you have this other person on the other side of the table who's gonna do the scene with you, and you two are gonna create the world. So for me, the most important thing is you gotta be that actor's advocate and ally, right? You gotta yes and every choice they make. However, you're also in the room and able to absorb in a positive and humble way the direction that the team is seeking. And so if you are able to develop a symbiotic relationship with the actor, the two of you can create a world that's based in truth. And sometimes as a reader, it can be very exhausting and confusing to yes and a lot of different choices. And again, there's a barrier that should be maintained between the table and the reader sometimes. And Bob and I, like I said, he's my longest running mentor. So he and I have transcended that relationship in a very precious way. But it's to be an advocate for the actor, yes, and their choices, and give them the best chance to shine.
Yeah, you're excellent at it. So Mark sometimes looks at me, he's like, are you going to read this? I'm like, no, we'll get Lucy.
All right.
How far in advance do we cast shows? A lot of people want to know how far in advance.
Sometimes it's always 2 months and sometimes more.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 months is the least you do, and it depends. And I mean, I'm not Fulton. Sometimes we're a little more ahead because Mark's schedule's so busy.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes we've done two at the same time. That's always fun.
Or two theaters at the same time.
Right. But that is but yeah, usually always 2 months, and sometimes more if you can. You like to have a cushion if you can, a little more cushion if you can.
Yeah.
Because you got to get the contracts out the month before, right? And then so it's always.
And a lot of times, you do cast, and an actor gets another job, and then says, no, we're leaving, and then you have to replace them. So yeah, it's a process.
And there's some rule that you're not allowed to audition too early too. I don't remember what that is. Like
there is, yeah, I don't remember either.
Like a equity principle call. There's some the differences in the calls, Joey, which I don't know if you want to go too far into this, but when we set up auditions, there's three ways we have to do it. We have to do an equity chorus call, and then we have to do an equity principal call, and then we have appointment calls. And so with the union, Actors Equity Union helps us a lot with how we have to set up, but there's so many rules to follow. Like, do you have to do dancers for this show? Do you have to do singers for this show? Is it just a dancing show? Is it just and you have to do for 8 hours, you have to sit there and let people who aren't represented in the business or perhaps didn't get appointment go through. There's that way to go into the auditions too, and those are called the equity principal auditions, and those are a lot of unknowns, and it's fun to find someone that day. Yeah. But then there's the appointments, and that's the people that I've actually, Jody, you give me a list of requests, the director gives me a list of requests, and I add those up and use that information from your request to help me pick the people I want to show Mark or whoever the director is of yours for that show.
Elaborate a little bit more about that. Is there a system that you use, Bob, that where you quote unquote find actors for auditions? Yeah. How does that? Well, how do actors put themselves out there so that they can get invited to things or get appointments?
No, for sure. I'm lucky to be burdened with this brain, so I know plenty. You know what I mean? So I know plenty of people, but I put out what's called a character breakdown. The director gives me a description of the characters. Like, this character is 6'1". They're it says Norwegian in the script, and they need to play ukulele and the fife or something. And I send that out to agents, all the agents and managers in the business, and then they send me. They used to send us hard copy submissions, pictures and resumes every morning. We'd have piles and stacks of pictures and resumes outside our office in yellow envelopes from messenger service all over New York. But now it's all online, thank God. Yeah. And so it saves the actors so much more money. Yeah. But thank God we and then I digitally look over every agent's submission, and I can do it by role or I can do it by agency, or it depends on, and usually there's usually, depending on the show size, but there's always in the hundreds or sometimes thousands of people submitted to weed through.
I think after Chicago, I remember Mark saying that we saw, I think, 2,500 people for Chicago that week. Wow. Yeah. What is something about the audition process that, from your side, that the audience might not know about? And the second part of this question is, do you have a favorite audition story that you would like to share with us? What is something that the audiences might not know, our audiences might not know about what it's like for you on your side of it?
Well, a casting director I've once worked for said, Bob, if the show's really good, the director will get all the credit, and if the show's really bad, you'll be bad casting.
It's your fault.
So I've always had that in the back of my head, going like, that's sometimes when I'll stand up. Sometimes people think casting directors have a lot of power, but at the end of the day, there's a yes and a no pile. There's a pile of people they don't see in the project. We never call it the no pile. We call it the smile pile. Like, thank you, we love you, but we don't see you in our production. And then we have the yes pile. And when we lay out all the pictures and we lay out all the yeses, I think you have to. There's very few times I'll ever fight harder than the director for someone, unless I know they've been awful to the accompanist, or I know that
Right.
Lucy doesn't think they might be a nice person, or to be honest, and now directors get on social media and check out what they can find out about you, and they call more people call other artistic directors of places you've worked and checked up on you. So the biggest thing is, in this business, you have to add up. You add up everyone you know what I mean, and you
Yeah.
become a community, and you need to treat that community with respect your whole the whole time.
Right.
But the hardest thing probably is when you watch someone you love be the backup.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I don't, how why this poor person's been the backup 4 times for this director, this, you know what I mean, this past season. And then finally, that even happened with one of our favorites of Fulton, and finally they were just hired by another director, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Oh, good, good, good.
Thank God. She's no longer the backup for this director. You know, she's the number one. But actors have to learn to, like, sometimes it takes a while to get on that director's radar, just like it does for casting directors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's our job, to make sure we're trying to keep them on their radar once we know that. Like, if I see Mark have sort of interest in someone, I put that in a different file.
Yeah.
So, because I know that next time, even Joey, when we did Titanic, I remember you handed me some pictures saying, "Hey, we don't need these guys right now, but we need these guys next season." You know,
Or Phantom, yeah, or something else for
I
next year.
think I have a pile of them over here, right up.
Oh, I have files you don't even know. Like, sometimes I have to take them out and like sit on the floor and just put everything and look at it and go, okay, let me reorganize here. Let me move this person there, this person there. Oh, right, he liked this person, so we need to put them there, you know.
Right.
I hope every actor listening to this experience remembers and hears exactly what we're talking about, because the greatest insight that occurs behind the table is everyone is so talented and so incredible, and your headshot floats like a leaf down the river in Pocahontas's dreams.
gosh,
Okay,
yeah.
you know, you just never know. And so also you have to have compassion for the other side of the table, which is something I have learned a lot from Bob, because he's a very avant-garde casting director in reference to the fact that he does take into account the humanity and the fact that your audition begins when you do start in the room, and where you look and how you look, because kindness and love show through, right? We know that, thank God. But I do think it's important to remember, sometimes we can't hire a full cast of people we don't know. Put yourself in the dream shoes of a producing artistic director. Surely, if you were producing a play that had a lead, you would call upon someone you know and trust and love, right? So that compassion is important.
So stories, fun stories from being in the room.
Oh my gosh.
Fun stories. There's so many, because
know, right?
everyone's so talented, and the improv that occurs is so cool. You know?
There is a couple out there that they sang a duet in the middle of their audition, and it had a kiss in the song, and they're now married, and they met that day.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I introduced them and said, "Hi, this is so and so, so and so. This is so and so. You're going to be singing this song." And I didn't mention the kiss, and I always think that's up to the actor to sort of go with the flow and say, "Hey, I'm sick right now. You don't want to kiss me," or maybe you want to kiss
Go
them.
for it.
Although with COVID, who knows what will
Oh, yeah.
happen with that. But literally, there are a couple. I think I've cast there's probably 10 or 12 people that have called me to say, "Hey, you know, we think
my
you
matchmaker.
hooked us up. You hooked us up." But hey, can I tell that? I want to tell a story about say Melissa's last name, who you're talking to next, Joey. I was saying
Blatherwick.
Blatherwick. She once sent a video audition, which we didn't used to do so much, but now who knows where we'll be headed, and maybe they're doing it. But she auditioned for In the Heights. She did a video of her playing all 4 roles at the same time, and it's a quartet, this song, and she did 4 video takes of her side by side, and it is to this day the most genius thing I've ever seen. I keep it on my desktop of my laptop to show people every once in a while. If that was on YouTube, she'd have so many views. I don't know if she's ever done that, but anyway, I'm such a fan of hers. But I thought that story's be fun for you today.
Yeah, for sure. Lucy, do you have anything?
Yeah, there of course was the experience that Mark and I had during the Evita open call, when Susan Oliveras came into the room, and just rainbows were shooting out of her mouth as she sung, and Mark and I were just blown away. And And she, of course, came to work with you guys in Evita. And I just remember living off that experience for weeks, remembering that hard work and kindness really can show through like that. And I also, gosh, I looked through my do's and don'ts list, which I always write down as support for friends, right?
Yeah.
I've done it. I've taken my shoes off during an audition. I've brought in too many props. So that is a hoot. And there is a great list of those things. And of course, there's boundaries that you don't want to push, right? We don't want to bring real weapons into the room for any particular projects. Not necessary. Everyone has such a magical imagination.
Right. This isn't a story, but for me, being a part of this for the past 2 years with you two, my favorite thing about the audition process is the final day, is the final callback day when you watch the actor come in and get the part, take it,
Sure.
And then when they leave and there's that moment of silence where we kind of all look at each other and are like, that's it, right? That's the one we're going to go with. That's just one of the most, I love it every time. It never gets old to me.
No, that's there's for every yes, there's a million no's, and those yeses are so big that it somehow feels insanely evens me out.
So final questions here. Bob, this is, I guess, more for you. How have things changed since you first started this? What's the biggest difference in the process of casting that's changed since you started?
Since I started in the late 1900s, you mean?
Yeah, dial up.
Gosh, it's been. I could talk. That's a book.
Yeah, that's a whole episode.
That's a book. Me. I'll never sit down long enough to probably write. But can you imagine me sitting still long enough to write a book? But there's something about the fact, I remember the first day I helped put Pat McCorkle's fax machine my first day together as an intern. It was new. They never had, no one had a fax machine yet. Yeah, so I'm that old. We used to even type our schedules, which is the appointment day, the people I'm bringing in, on a word processor. Yeah. Which was lucky because we didn't have a typewriter. So I've come that far from the things being knocked down. I do think one of the most important things is that I jokingly credit Lin-Manuel Miranda for this, but opening up creative directors and people's eyes on being more. I hate that word, colorblind casting. I don't think that's an impossible word to be, but wanting casts of full of more diversity has been an exciting challenge and a beautiful thing. How can we create heroes if we can't see them in the light, and how can we, and so I think it's funny to me because since I've been casting in 1993, I've always put in my breakdowns, we would love to see actors of all ethnicities and racial backgrounds. And now they come to me and make sure I put that in, and I'm like, thank you. I've been putting that in there forever, and I'm glad you got woke, and I'm glad this is important. Right. So that's the biggest change in the recent years, except if we were going to talk in the future and if we're even allowed to audition in big holding rooms and what we're going to do
from here for sure.
There has to be room for a rainbow of shades, and Bob does incredible work at giving the actors an opportunity to shine their truth through the character no matter what. And the greatest experience is when we work with a new director or someone who truly embraces that idea and we see the walls of their concept, fall apart because talent is shining through. And that, as a white woman in the industry, has been very beautiful to sit back and watch. That experience has been powerful.
Yay. Oh, I miss you too.
Miss you.
Oh, it's so weird. It's such a strange time.
It really is.
But these Zoom meetings and happy hours are what's getting me through. I have to be totally honest. I can't wait to sort of continue them, with my family meets every weekend, or whatever. There's no reason we shouldn't have been doing that all along. So
a lot of people have said that throughout this time, that it's forced us to kind of reconnect in a way we didn't think we needed to. And who would have thought, 10 weeks ago that, we didn't even know what Zoom was.
Right. I should have bought stock then.
Should have bought stock. Oh, you guys. Oh, I thank you so much for joining me this afternoon and
Thank
shedding
you,
some light
Chloe.
on this part of the process. So I think it's very important, and you guys are a huge part of the process that you don't get to take a bow on stage with with the cast. So I wanted people to meet you and see and hear
It
from
really
you.
is.
So,
It really is a pleasure to work for the Fulton and for Mark and with you. But I mean, it's easy to want to do your best work with for Mark Robin. He's giving
Absolutely.
he's giving you his everything he has that moment when you're in his presence, and so you make sure you do too.
He sets the bar very high, as does the Fulton, and it is so wonderful to have the opportunity to learn from you gents. And I can only look forward to the days where all the stories come into one, because it's the magic of theater making.
Right.
oh, well, thanks for joining me today. Take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you guys soon.
Thank you to Bob and Lucy. I miss you and I love you, and I hope that we can be back in the casting room together again soon. Next up, Kevin and Mel of Shifted Focus Headshots.
Hey.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Oh,
Oh,
hello,
Good
hello.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
my gosh, I'm so glad you guys are joining me to talk today. This is Mel and Kevin, everyone. And little Lucy is over there to the left.
Yes,
Yeah.
that way.
Baby Lucy, how old is she now?
She's 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
8 weeks. So we have an
Yeah.
8-week-old in this interview as well, everybody.
Yeah.
You very well might hear her. Yeah.
Hi. How are
Hi.
how are things?
We're good. We're
Yeah,
hanging in there.
Yeah, as good as things can be. I think we're trying to take advantage of the silver linings of this and just
Everybody has those kind of answers, I think, when I ask that right now.
Totally.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's kind of hanging in the best they can.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about the casting process today, and I wanted to talk to the two of you because what you do is a big part of the casting process. I refer to the headshot as the actor's business card.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's what is left with the casting director and directors, producers, whoever you want to, whoever you're in the room for. It's what you're left with when the actor leaves the room. So as a representation of them. And I think the two of you have done a great job locally, as well as New York actors, whoever else you photograph that are actors around the country, and putting an awesome aesthetic together of the quality and everything that you guys do. Like, for instance,
Thank you.
this photo
Your
paper,
lovely
Thank you.
background.
Exactly. There it is.
Yeah.
this headshots.
The look for the studio. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you guys a little bit. If you guys can give a little background on yourselves. I know you're both actors, but how Shifted Focus came to be through your acting careers.
Yeah. So we both graduated college with music theater degrees and have been acting forever. And we found ourselves in Tokyo. Kevin was performing with the Cirque du Soleil show, and we were making enough money to buy a good camera. And so we got this camera thinking we're going to take pictures of Tokyo. And what we realized was, oh, wait, we could take pictures of each other. Yeah. And that literally was us starting to go, I need a new headshot, and maybe we could try this out. And so we kind of started practicing on each other, then started taking some online courses as far as photography goes. How do we actually work this camera? And we already had an idea of what we wanted our headshots to look like from a performer's perspective. And so then we got to kind of hone the other side of things, like how do we get to that point? And because we're our own worst critics.
True.
We all know that. So when you see your picture, you can pinpoint every single little thing that you might not like about yourself. So then we started going, okay, well, how can we not only make this a quality photo from just a photography perspective, like angles and lighting and all this, but also just how can we bring out the best traits in ourselves and in others when we're doing that.
Yeah, that was back in, I guess we started back, that was 2010?
9
maybe, yeah.
I think 9.
Yeah.
Well, maybe 10, I don't know. A million years ago.
Right? It feels like a long time ago.
Yeah.
What is, in your opinion, what's the importance of the headshot, and what should it represent? What is most important about the headshot?
It's exactly what you said. It's the actor's business card, and we're fond of a phrase that said your headshot is you when you're not in the room. So you've got this very small amount of time to do your song, introduce yourself, meet the casting team, all this. And once you're out of the room, they're spending time looking at your headshot and resume. So the importance of that is it has to represent you when you're not around. And that needs to encompass your professionalism, your energy, and what you might bring to a cast.
And what you actually look like.
Correct.
Yes, you on your best day, but you aren't going to show a headshot or bring a headshot of yourself that is 10 years old, let's say. You had different haircut, you look totally different, you dress totally different. Yeah. And then you leave that headshot for the casting team and suddenly they don't know who that person was.
Right. I don't even know who that is. Right.
Yeah.
That was kind of my next question of what's the most important thing for an actor to know when choosing a shot. You know, it is that look like me.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, as a casting director, there are times when people walk in the room and, you know, headshots are in a pile and I'll, you know, I pick it up and I do this and then I hand it to Mark. And there are times when I pick it up and I go, oh gosh, did I put this out of order? Like
really?
Oh, wow.
Person?
Yeah.
Wow.
Doesn't look like her, you know?
Yeah.
And it's either they're like a redhead in the picture and they're blonde when they walk in the room.
Yeah.
Just if it's that different, if your look is that different, then you
need a new headshot.
Yes.
Yeah. And exactly.
Or have a couple, you know, have a couple looks, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then how do you, just out of curiosity for you as a casting director, how do you then turn around, go home, look through the headshots and know who that person is?
Sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
I literally will write, doesn't look like headshot, blonde, you know, this dress on, you know, other things that will jar my memory of what that person looked like, you know.
Yeah. And for actors watching this, like you're hearing it from both sides now. You've like not keeping that updated really is making a lot of extra work for a casting team, and that's they'll do the work. They're awesome. Joey's a professional.
Well, Joey will do the work, but maybe not everyone will do the work.
So yeah, you got to do yourself.
Some people will literally go,
exactly.
Yeah.
You're over here now. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, because it kind of takes your professionalism down a notch.
Yeah.
If you don't even have this most important piece of the puzzle.
Right.
What are your top 3, I say, don'ts when prepping to take your headshots? What are things you should not do when you're get ready to do your shots?
Yeah. I think there's a couple. I'd say number one, actually, let me say this, no particular order. However, we were just talking about the hair thing. So don't change your hair right before you come in. Don't get a haircut or get a new dye a day or even a week before you come in, because we all know that they don't always turn out the way that we think they're going to.
You always like a haircut a week or 2 later.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's never good the day before, the day after.
That's exactly right. This was a complete accident and I've stuck with it ever since. Yeah.
So don't change your hair immediately right beforehand. Also, don't try a new skin routine that week. It is not a good time to try new things on your body because
don't go get a microdermabrasion.
No, don't do it. You don't know how it's going to react. Even new lotions and things. Sometimes people will use something and you find out, oh, this really doesn't work with my skin. And suddenly, even if it's something as little as like severe dry spots or something, which of course we can get rid of in post-processing, but you don't want to have to. You want to have all of these options to choose from.
Yeah. So if you're going to have a new look and you'd like to take that into the audition room, give yourself a couple of weeks. Give yourself time to settle into that and make sure you know it all works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another I guess this is number 3 now.
Yep.
The third thing I would say, don't go out drinking and partying the night before. You want to look like your best self. So why don't you go ahead, drink a lot of water, maybe have a salad if you want, and go to bed early.
Exactly. You want nice clear skin.
Yeah.
No redness in the eyes.
And everything. You really can tell.
Yeah.
Even if you think you can handle it.
Right.
It's better if you don't try.
Work for you later, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, and again, we retouch photos here and there for some specific ones, but you want to be able to use all your pictures, so you may as well make them as good as possible in camera so that you've got all of them to use.
And may I note that yes, we do some light retouching. Not that we can do anything, but we do not personally alter people's bodies.
Correct.
So if someone asks us to take 10 pounds off of them, we're not going to do it.
Right.
And I hope that no headshot photographer would, because again, it's not going to look like you.
Right.
So
What do you guys think is the biggest difference in headshots like over the past 20 years? Because I mean, my first headshots were in 2000, like 1997, 98.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was a full face of makeup, and it was, you know,
Yeah.
black and white, and like all the flashes and all the big
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
school. What's the biggest difference you think in the industry?
I do think it's the color, the black and white versus color was the biggest shift, I think, which I think came from LA.
Yeah.
You know, I remember talking
Even
to
real stuff.
even my headshot photographer. I think I got my first professional ones done in New York, probably in 2003 or 4. Chia Messina did mine. And that's what she said, actually. She was like, do you want black and white or color? And I had kind of, my hair used to have kind of a reddish tint to it. She was like, with your skin tone. Anyway, they were doing it kind of case by case basis for color that way, if you wanted to show a certain color. But then everything went color. So I'd say, first of all, the color. And then the other is probably the look of it, or the subject. I think there was a certain face or a certain seriousness about older headshots that had to be a certain, you know, dramatic lighting, and it had to be this certain look, whereas now we're much more focused on who this person is.
Yeah, I think a lot more personality comes through now than it used to when we had all of our first headshots. You know, you really get to see in expression, in clothing choices, in coloring, just of the photo. Some people prefer to do their photos outside. We obviously mostly stick to indoor. We kind of have a style that we stick to, but whatever best expresses your personality is great to come through.
Because there was that trend, like they went color, and then I remember, I think in 2007, 8, I had them redone, and it was, you know, I was out on the streets of New York, and I was, you know, I had industry behind me, and it was
you wanted like lines of cars, and exactly.
I think right now it's the best it can be. I think I love the way you guys have put the color prints, the what do you really call this stuff?
It's seamless paper.
Seamless paper.
Thank you. I think it's a great idea, because it really does make what should be the focus of the picture, which is the face. Look, really just here it is, nothing behind you, don't distract me.
Exactly.
I love your guys' aesthetic, so I give you major thumbs up.
Oh, thank you. We're happy to do it. It's fun for us.
What do you think is the next trend? What do you think it might be shifting to next?
That was a good question, actually, that I kind of was trying to think about. I would say, if anything, maybe a tiny bit more cinematic in style, possibly in coloring, but in lighting. I don't know that it will stay outdoors or indoors or whatever, but I think, if anything, we might just kind of lean a little more towards like,
there's a lot of, I'm noticing a lot of LA and London photographers using some industrial is kind of the way it is, like using something metallic in the background, little extra colors, very soft though in the background, nothing very specific. It's still all very blurry. So to your point, it doesn't take away from the image, from the subject, from the face. But I'm noticing, a few things from LA and London that look like that. So I would agree. And that's,
And we'll see though, if that, you know, I think it's hard to predict. For me, it's hard to predict a trend. Clearly, I'm here I am in my black t-shirt, as same as I was 20 years ago.
But you say that, and that's in the back of my mind. Like, as we continue to grow, we're always working on our stuff, and we're always trying to make sure we're delivering the best possible for this community and to the folks that are coming in and out from New York. So that's something we'll be looking at too, to see how we can continue to develop our best.
Yay. So how often do you think, really, how in this time period, how often do you think an actor should, you know, definitely update?
Well, you know, on one hand, it's individual, because again, like we talked about, if you change something about yourself, you should update your photos, especially if it's something drastic. If it's like you changed your lipstick color, that's probably not a big deal. If you're doing a major haircut, if you lost a lot of weight, if you know, whatever the case is. But if you're staying pretty much on track, you've had the same haircut for years, I still think you probably want to update every 1 to 2 years, because honestly, we change. We don't see it because every day we see ourselves, but we get little sweet laugh lines. Laugh lines are my favorite lines of all things. I love to see those on people. It makes me so happy. But you know, when like college age kids, the difference in a college age kid from a freshman to a sophomore they get the baby fat kind of goes away. Our bodies change and grow. So I think every year to 2 years is practical.
I think one of my other favorite things about headshots, since sitting on the other side of the table, is when someone comes in and they have like they have one from their picture attached from like 2002, and then they have a little thing clipped up here from 2009, and you're like, just get a new picture.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing us what you look like over the years, but we need to see you now.
Right.
So I think that's very important. Is we don't need to see what you look like. We need to see what you look like now.
Correct. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Joey.
Yeah, sure.
From a casting perspective, I know what I would say to this, but I would love to know for you, when you look at a headshot, as far as just maybe personality or maybe energy, is there an energy that tends to draw you more, or something that kind of draws you that, or on the opposite hand, if you see a certain energy that really kind of repels you?
Right. I think like what we've been talking about, I don't need, it's such a fast process. There's such a short amount of time where the actor is in front of you, and that there's so much to look at. So for me, if it is a clear photo of their face, I don't need like, I don't need all that. Like, I just want, like, I actually kind of like the ones where it is just from here up. Because it's there, I go, I do this, I look at them, I look at that, I make the decision whether this person looks like that. And then you immediately flip over because they started singing, and you have a minute and whatever, 16 bars to kind of go, this is the information I need to look at before I have a conversation with them. So I think as clear as it can be of who you are in that room when you walk in, that I can just go, right, that's that person. You look great. There's nothing, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh gosh, I can't think of the word right now. Indulgent about the picture. I don't need it to be a glamour shot. I need it to be, I want it to look nice, but I don't need it to be anything other than a beautiful photograph of, with great light, and that shows me what that person looks like right then and there.
And to your point, and I'm sorry if I'm going off track here, but I just wanted to say, some people come in and they really want to do all these different, like, maybe characters or different looks. And on one hand, maybe if you have a real specific character, especially for commercials, if you're like,
TV and film,
that's
I think
different.
It's a completely different thing.
Different thing. I'm talking about just theater here. I will say, I don't think that people need to show different characters. If they show themselves, that's the casting teams. That's what they're there for, to decide, this person could play this part or this part. Am I right in that?
In the photo, I don't need to see your character, the actor. Like I'll see that in your audition. And if I can honestly go, that's the guy who did that funny, monologue, or, I don't need to see the monologue that he did in the picture. I just want to remember what you look like.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that, that's what I thought.
But that's me. I don't know if other people want different, it's like you said, it's based off of that specific casting person or director.
Right. I tend to have confidence that the casting directors can use their imaginations if they want to or need to. So we always tell people that they should, we're looking again for the best versions of themselves. We're not looking for crazy characters. I just wanted the world to hear it from a casting director.
Because I mean, it goes for the audition. When this is going further into the casting too, like, when you come in the room, we don't want to see some person that you're putting on. I want to see the person who, if we hire you, that's going to be the guy or gal in the room every day at rehearsal.
Exactly.
So I want to see that person in the room. I don't need you to come perform before you start auditioning. Just be you. That is the best advice I can give someone. Because for me, if you come in any other way, it puts me off, and I'm like, oh. And then it takes my mind off of actually looking at your work and what you're presenting yourself. Exactly. You guys, I thank you so much for taking some time in your
Yeah.
very busy parenting schedule right now. I understand. So
Oh no, thanks for
This is
having
a
us.
pleasure,
And
yeah.
also, we're so
thanks for
lucky
being
that
a part of episode 3.
It was
yeah, we
great.
loved it.
It was
We
really
can't
great.
wait to watch the rest of the episodes as well.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this, Joey.
That was cool.
And we'll put up all the things so that people can contact Shifted Focus for any and
Thanks.
all photography needs.
Thank you.
Sounds
Appreciate it.
awesome.
That's
Be
great.
good, you guys. Thanks.
All right, you too. Take it easy,
Thanks.
Joey.
Later.
Bye, Joey.
Bye.
Bye.
So that concludes today's episode. I want to say thank you to Bob, Lucy, Mel, and Kevin for taking time and speaking with us about all things casting. Stay tuned next week as we feature everyone's favorite, the actor. I will be speaking with Fulton alum and Broadway stars Abby Mueller and Tim Hughes, as well as Tony nominee Rob McClure about all things acting. Thanks for joining in today. I hope to see you next week. Please continue to send your questions and comments, and you never know, one of your questions might get asked on an episode. So I'll see you guys next week. Cheers.